Thanks very much for getting here so early in the morning, especially after last night. I hope you had a good time. My name is Sean Urban. I'm a consultant with Salesforce.com, and we have a great presentation for you today. A couple of things just to go over. If you would please not use those eye patches that were given out outside during the session. I'm sure you've all seen our safe harbor statement. I'm sorry. All seriousness, Salesforce is a publicly traded company under the symbol CRM. So if you would like to read this in more detail, you can go to our website and check it out. But please make all your buying decisions on currently available information. So today's the agenda. We have Julie Catadella from Deutsche Bank. She's going to talk about the integration and what they're doing there and the workflow and a lot of great applications they're using. Adam's going to talk about a lot of integration that he's doing. You're going to see some live slides of his applications. And then Bob Linz is going to get up here and talk about what he's doing from an integration standpoint and a lot of the workflow they're using there. So it's a great session today. If you can hold your questions to the end, that'd be great. And I'll pass it off to Julie.
Thank you, Sean. You didn't say that we worked together and the hard time I gave you all those years.
Yeah, so I was actually an employee at Salesforce. A lot of what you're going to see is something I worked with Julie on.
Sure, he takes all the credit. He always does. So my name is Julie Catadella. I'm Vice President with Deutsche Bank's Private Wealth Management Division. I've been with the company for over 10 years. And my job and my role, I work basically with who I consider my clients, Salesforce.com users, and I help implement a lot of the processes that they use in their day-to-day work. A little bit about Deutsche Bank. We have over 3,000 users globally. In my division, there's about 675 users. We launched it in like 2005, and we really put a lot of our processes in the system, and I'll talk about those processes today. I think that it is what had our system much adopted by all of our users. So that was definitely something that putting in compliance things, it made our system used and by all of the front office all day long. I want to start off by explaining about our source systems. This is the information that we pull. So the Private Wealth Management Division has 7 different source systems supporting 10 different product lines. And each of these systems are integral to the individual businesses. They use it in different ways. However, we do need a system that would show a whole picture. If you look at any one of these systems, you're seeing the products that are in that system, not all of the products for a particular relationship. These systems, they push data to a central database, a data warehouse, and then it gets put into DB4. And we do that some on a nightly basis, but we do have integrations as frequent as 5 minutes sometimes.
Just so you know, what you mentioned, DB4 is rebranding.
Oh, I didn't say that. That was my, yeah, I'm sorry, I slipped already. We did rebrand it DB4, so I will, excuse me if I slip and call it that. Some of the information we're pulling is the account name and number from all the systems. So those are brought in. They're linked to our customers, and then the customers become clients. With the account information is the portfolio information. That's going to be important when I talk about transactions that we do. Market value and revenue. Market value on a nightly basis. We always have end of day, day before, and our revenue is brought in on a monthly basis once the official books close for the month. Product officers, a really big point there I'll make later on, but we bring in all of our trust officers, investment advisors, custody officers. We bring that right from the source system into Salesforce. Now I'll talk a little bit about the data that we push, because I did mention that we push and pull to these 7 source systems, but there's also other systems that we share information with. We start in Salesforce and we maintain a couple of things, our client structure that I'll talk about and customer ownership, and we push that out to the data warehouse, which then feeds it into the local MIS and then the global MIS. So the client structure that I think is a little unique to Deutsche Bank is that we take our related customers and we roll them into a relationship. So just think about an umbrella. At the top of the umbrella is your relationship, and then you kind of put your related customers together. Now this enables us to roll up the assets, the revenue. You can see a full relationship view, which is important when you're talking about negotiating rates and so on and so forth. The customer level, which I think some of you, because Salesforce calls it account, we call it our customer, is either a prospect or a client. And that's automated in terms of the user can't determine whether a customer is a client or a prospect. That's simply if there's an active account, asset account, the DB account, linked to it, then it would be a client. And if the accounts suddenly close in one day, that automatically will be returned to a prospect and a note will go out to the customer owner. So it's kind of a tight process that we know we have an exact count of our clients. Customer ownership is another thing that we have, that we maintain in Salesforce. And that is important because that drives the revenue. So the revenue gets tracked to whomever the customer owner is on that relationship. I think we really use the data migration mostly within Salesforce. So if you look at these outer circles, and see the relationship has certain information, the customer, the client or prospect, the contact has some personal data, the addresses, phone numbers, so on and so forth, and then the DB account. Think of all those together as the customer profile. And the customer profile, having all of this information centrally in the system, is extremely important to us. Well, why is it important? Mainly because audit said so and said we have to have a place where we have all of our data. But it really becomes so useful to have that profile populated because then any form rather that you do could just reuse that information. I mean, every form that you're going to do for a customer is going to have the name, the address, the tax ID number. All that information would be needed to be either filled out manually on a manual form or rekeyed in, and it's prone for error. So we use that. Some of the forms that we do this with in Salesforce, pushing and pulling data, is our Know Your Customer form. That's our due diligence, right? It's the first step in the sales process. A salesperson can't open up an account until they do the due diligence. So what we've done with this, we've built our own form. What we've done is we've allowed, if you launch that form, it's going to pull information in the profile. But if your salespeople are anything like my salespeople, they don't want to give you information unless they have to. And so the Know Your Client form is the first step in the process for them to be able to open up account. And then what's the bottom line? Revenue and then money in their pocket. So this is what drives the users using the application. The Know Your Customer form, if that is the first point of entry, will capture that information. And so once the form is filled out, which typically is the way that happens, right? A salesperson's not going to put in a name and then fill out the whole profile, make it nice and neat and clean. We wish they were like that, but they're not. The Know Your Customer form will be approved, and then the information will push back to the profile so that it's used then for any other various forms, like our suitability form, which we use for private equity and hedge funds. If we have a fund that we want a prospect or client to get documents, we just simply launch this form. We pick which product it is. It pulls in all the customer information. A user never has to fill that information out. And then it goes through an approval process and eventually to those product groups where they send out the documents. Now, I mentioned transactions. This is probably, why everybody lives in Salesforce every day, because the front office, the middle office, and the back office all use this system to do transactions. Transactions, let's say a client calls, I want to move money from one account to another account. The person in the front office will key in a transaction. We have about I think we just added 52 different types of transactions. That you launch the transaction, it pulls in some of the information. I mentioned portfolio information before. If you put in an account number and then you're going to move money from one portfolio, you're only going to have the available portfolios that are for that account. So this helps extremely in nobody's keying in numbers. It's all coming up for them. And then lastly, account opening also is online. We launched that recently where we can fill out an account opening form. Again, pre-populates a lot of the fields, then it goes to your account opening group and it gets opened. One other thing about the transactions, we have instituted straight-through processing, and this was great for us because we actually keyed it in 3 times. So the front office would key it into the middle office would get that receipt, then key it into another system, and then finally the back office would key it into the source system. And, you know, I could just tell you 3 times the amount for errors. Some of the benefits of data integration, holistic view, right? So now a sales team can see the entire view of the relationships, all the accounts, they roll up, you can see the big picture. And everybody's looking at the same place, at the same information, which is important. Data integrity, I can't tell you how important that is. I'm known as the Salesforce cleaning lady. And my specialty is data scrubs. Everybody has data scrubs. So it's really important that the information is maintained in a system. And it doesn't have to be Salesforce. It could be the source system. But then wherever it's maintained, that's where changes are made. And then it gets fed to the other systems. Because there's nothing worse than having 2 reports from different systems with conflicting information and which one is right, and then you got to go to your bankers and, you know, to your salespeople and have them verify, and so that's really what I try to focus on because I don't want to be the one doing those data scrubs. What's important here is to build the process so that going forward it stays in sync. Do that first. And then do any necessary cleanup, because it's just going to build up. Automated workflows. Really important that you have the processes go through a automated workflow. It shows who did what when, right? You can always look at a transaction and see who approved it, when they approved it, did they reject it, what was the that's all there. So now when internal audit comes in and they want to see a report, it's very easy. I'm very nimble to just give them a report because it's easy to pull together. Not like the days of manual forms, and we all had manual forms, and I'm still finding them in corners of my organization and implementing them into the system. The examiners I just mentioned, audit is always asking for information. Centralized reporting, this enables us to, again, pull information either on the customer level or on the relationship level. We have all the information in one system. We could use it for various reasons because it's all in the same database. Okay, so how do we use the data we pull? Well, I'll talk about the reviews since I talked about transactions. The IA reviews and trust reviews, I mentioned that we pull in product officers from the source system. Now that's really important because in our previous system, one of the biggest trouble for the users was lack of access. So they couldn't even get to the record to be able to put a call note in. By bringing in these product officers from our source system directly into the customer team, thus giving them access to the customer, makes everybody that services this relationship has access to this customer. And if the trust officer puts a note, the primary officer, the customer owner, can see that, and everybody's looking at the same place. We have reviews that are required for our investment advisory account and our trust accounts. What we did was just build reports. These are on the home page, these 2 sections right here. And it makes it simple for the trust officer to go to that section on the home page, say, what are my outstanding trust administrative reviews, and they know what they have to work on. So all that is in the system using dates. How we use the information we push. I mentioned the client structure. This is a view of the hierarchy in our system. We, again, the top of the umbrella is the Catadella family relationship, and then under it I have clients and prospects, the clients being the ones that have open DB accounts linked to it. And this is like the full view of the relationship. Customer ownership I mentioned, and then the assets and revenue reporting goes according to the customer owner. Another relationship view, this is really handy to our users. It's a custom link to a report, and now I can see for the whole relationship all of the customers and what accounts they have and the assets values. How we use data migration within Salesforce. I mentioned all of our forms. I'm going to mention it again because this is really where I think it helps my users. It is the one place, it makes it easier for them to find forms after, and they're always looking to use the form that I did 6 months ago and maybe clone it. So it's very simple when it's all in one system. As I mentioned, it pulls in the information when you do your customer form, about 70% of the information. So if your customer profile has the data, then your form is going to be mostly pre-populated. We increased our approval time with our KYCs dramatically, as you can see, because it just makes it easier for everybody involved in the process. Gone are the day I remember trying to track down, and there was a stack like this on the approver's desk and going through because the client wanted to open up the account sooner than they had thought. So now I'm looking through a stack to try to pull that out to get it approved. Suitability and account opening, I talked about a little bit, and compliance too, that's something we all have to do. So if it gets built in the system, that's going to help your user adoption too, and makes it very easy for audit to pull reports and know what they have to do. That's about everything I wanted to talk about today. I do encourage you to get, it's a pet peeve of mine to see one of my sales teams using a spreadsheet to collect data. I mean, it just happens all the time, and I'm like, why aren't you using the system? All your customers are in the system already. Like, if you want to track their birthdays, why not just do it in the system? So I kind of make it my personal job to seek those things out and automate it into the system using the data. Okay, so now I want to introduce Adam, who's going to come up and talk about his data integration. Adam?
Great. Thanks, Julie.
Sure.
Feel free to come by my office and you can help me clean up my data as well, because I'm sure everyone could use help with that. Just a little bit of background as far as National Retirement Partners goes. We're actually kind of a marketing and distribution entity, and we own a subsidiary company, NRP Financial, which is an independent broker-dealer. So really most of our time at the corporate office is spent recruiting financial advisors into that broker-dealer and also into our RIA subsidiary as well. One little difference with us versus most broker-dealers is our guys focus on the pension side of the business, so they consult on 401k plans, 403b plans, that type of thing. We have about $50 billion in assets right now. And figure the split is about 75-25 between the institutional and the individual wealth management. We do have two orgs. So we have one that we use corporately, which has about 40 users, and we use that to recruit financial advisors and track that type of information. Our other org is a little bit unique. It's basically it's a tool that we offer out to our financial advisors, so it's customized for them and the way they run their businesses. The unique thing about it is that we actually have 40 individual companies within the one org, and we use roles and profiles to sort of segment them so they each get their little slice of the pie. You can't see everybody else. So it creates some unique challenges, but also some unique opportunities, as we kind of you'll see as I show you some of the things we've done. Oh, just talked about that. Why I think integration is important. For us, it's really all about driving efficiency. So inside of the corporate org, the ability for our executives to be able to do reporting when they want to do it and not have to reach out to the IT department to get reports and request information, as well as for our sales and service reps to be able to get a complete picture of our financial advisors, their book of business, kind of where their assets are, to be able to better support them. On the other side, with our what I kind of call that the odd org, the member firm org, so if you hear me refer to that, that's what that is. The goal with that particular org is to really create a one-stop shop so that every day when our financial advisors come into their office, they log into Salesforce, and everything they need to do their job is right there within that application. So really, we spend a lot of time, and you'll see some of the integrations I'm going to show you, a lot of time integrating our other tool sets and really building it so that all the information around their clients is right within Salesforce. We kind of look at integration in two ways. We either pull data from our back-end systems into it, so book of business reporting, assets under management, things like that. Or, as I said, we kind of integrate with these other outside tools, and so we push and pull data from those tools and from those systems. Again, sort of, in my mind, creating that one-stop shop for efficiency purposes. I'm going to walk through 4 integrations that we've done over the last couple of years. The first one, we call it our mutual fund analytics integration. We score about 17,000 mutual funds every quarter through a proprietary due diligence system. It's a differentiator for our financial advisors. They can use our metrics when they're meeting with clients. In the 401k world, you really only need to do it quarterly, so it's not like a daily or the information doesn't need to be daily, I guess is kind of what I'm saying. And so we load this information right into Salesforce. Before we had this integration, if one of our financial advisors wanted to do research on a mutual fund, they'd have to subscribe to like a Principia or a Morningstar database, go into those systems, do the research, do the analysis, and then bring it back into Salesforce. The other thing, the great thing about this integration is that now with a click of a button, once we release our analytics every quarter, they can run a report and show which funds are underperforming by client. So, if the Columbia XYZ mutual fund is underperforming, one button, it'll list all the clients that are underperforming, and it'll show them where they have to go to address it. So what you're looking at here, we actually took the contracts object and renamed it our plans accounts object. So it's where we store all that information. This is a related list underneath that. So if you think about a 401k plan as the top, underneath you have the fund lineup, or what we call the investment options. From here, you can simply click on a fund name. Try to use the laser pointer here. So you click on a fund name, and it brings over to, this is actually what was the products object in Salesforce. And so here we're feeding in a whole series of Morningstar data points, annual return, calendar year return, expense ratio, asset class, all of those types of things. We also produce one-page PDF scorecards that the advisor can open right from within Salesforce. They click that link, the PDF scorecard opens. One thing we also did is we integrated with both Columbia and Russell. So when you open a Columbia or Russell fund, there's actually a link right on that product page, and it'll seamlessly bring you into their extranet site, and you can do a deeper dive on the fund. As I mentioned, we do our analytics quarterly, but let's say an advisor did want a live view of a particular mutual fund. They can click, there's a little button up at the top, I don't know how well you can see it, but it says Web Profile. When they click that button, it passes the ticker over to Yahoo Finance and pulls up that record within Yahoo. As I mentioned, one of the great things is the ability to do research on the funds right within Salesforce. So they can create list views and basically qualify on any field that we feed in. So in this case, you can look at NRP total score equal to 10, asset class large growth with an expense ratio less than 0.9. They could grab any other field they want that we pull in, and it'll return the list. From here, you can click on it and do an even deeper dive on the fund or pull up the one-page scorecard. So again, just about driving efficiency, creating that one-stop shop. Another integration that we did earlier this year, we integrated with a company called Larkspur Data. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but it's basically a Hoovers for the retirement industry. They take 5500 form data, which is the filing that all 401k plans have to submit to the IRS. They pull data off of that, and then they can go in and create a prospecting list. So before we had this integration, the user would have to, pay for their access to Larkspur. They'd have to go open it up. They do their search, they create the list, they pull it down into Excel, and they're either mailing it from Excel, doing mail merges, things like that, or they're importing it into Salesforce. But the two systems didn't communicate. We kind of felt that was a bit inefficient. So we actually integrated it right into Salesforce. So now when the user comes in, there's a link for Larkspur data. They click on it. It seamlessly opens Larkspur right from Salesforce. They run their search just as they normally would. And then when they get to the last screen, there's now a little radio button for Salesforce export. The system knows they're coming from Salesforce. That's when the button appears. They click Start Export, and it pulls that entire list that they generated right into the leads object within Salesforce. So now the great thing about this is from here we can click on a lead. Everything that's yellow is what comes over from Larkspur. So you can see participants, assets, contribution amounts, the types of plans, how many plans. So again, just driving that efficiency. Now I will say that the systems don't continually sync. Didn't go down that road, but we got close. So there's a little link there that says Larkspur Report. When you click that link, it opens a report that'll show you live data pulled directly from Larkspur. So this way, if you think about it, if you have a prospecting list, you're going to drip on that list for 6 months, 12 months before they ever raise their hand. But once they raise their hand, you can go see kind of what their plan looks like today. And the other thing I'll just mention, I don't have a screenshot, but it actually does carry over. When you convert the lead to the opportunity screen, that same report button is on that opportunity. So again, eliminating that duplicate entry, eliminating the need to go to multiple systems. This is the last integration I'm going to show you from the member firm org. As I mentioned, we do our analytics every quarter. If you're an advisor on a 401k plan, one of the main parts of your job is really analyzing the fund lineup on the plan, and you work with the plan sponsor or the client to do that on basically a quarterly basis. So our guys, because they tend to be larger shops, they'll have 50, 100, 200 401k clients. And so you can imagine this is a very time-consuming process every quarter to generate this type of analysis and reporting. We have another system called our fiduciary monitoring system that automates this process. Prior to this integration, the user would have to go to that system, enter their client data, enter the fund lineup, enter the assets every quarter, and then generate the reports. Kind of going back to our vision of a one-stop shop that just didn't make a lot of sense, especially because we wanted them to keep all that information within Salesforce. So what we did is we built an integration whereby it takes, again, this is the fund lineup for a particular 401k plan. When you're on the top of the plan screen, you can see there's a button there for fiduciary monitoring report. When you click that button, it sends all of that data. So the fund lineup, the assets, the client information, who the provider is, the industry, sends it all into this other system. You go through a reconciliation screen once just to make sure you didn't miss any funds and everything matched up. And then it opens up the fiduciary monitoring system within Salesforce. From here, all your entry at this point is done. You can just click that print IM report up there. The report will generate, and then you have a couple options. You can either download the report and print it right from there, save it to your hard drive, whatever you'd like, or you can click the Send to Salesforce button. It sends the report as a PDF back to that plan object and lists it as an attachment right on the object. So then from there, you can email it directly out, you can track it, you can print it, do whatever you want. But now when the client calls in a year from now, they say, oh, I was looking at this, I'm looking for this information. It's right there at your fingertips. The last set of integrations I'm going to show you, we're actually about halfway through finishing them right now. And this is actually with our corporate org. We get book of business reports from all the different record-keeping systems we work with, so like a Prudential or an ING or a Principal, companies like that. Every month, they send us these huge files, right? And we pull them into our data warehouse. Prior to integrating that with our corporate version of Salesforce, it was my executive team calling my IT guy saying, hey, we need this report that shows this, this, and this. Produce it for me. My IT guy would spend a couple hours creating the report, sending it back out. And, it was always dated information, right? They couldn't have it when they wanted it. It wasn't always current. So this is a screenshot of basically a member firm or a contact, one of our advisors. One of the things that we recently just integrated is the ability to pull in revenue numbers for our advisors so that when our service guys, when the phone rings, they pull up the advisor, they can see weekly gross revenue, weekly net, year-to-date revenue, year-to-date net. Again, it's just creating that complete picture of the advisor so the service guy can offer better support. This particular screenshot kind of goes back to that data feed that I was speaking about. In this case, let's just say in this example, this is like a Fidelity that we're pulling up. So you can see by month the total market value of assets we have on that particular platform, the new contributions, the number of plans that we have, the number of participants, and then the number of reps. The great thing about this information is we do a lot of work with like IO companies, so like a Columbia fund. So all they do is they produce and manufacture mutual funds. In the 401k world, they don't get a very good picture of which advisors are putting their funds on a plan and like who's getting money into their funds. With this information and with this reporting, the group that runs our provider relations has their own set of reports. They can go in and launch, okay, for Columbia funds, show me which advisors have money on which platform in their funds. They provide that back to Columbia. Columbia then can come back and thank the advisor or go wholesale to the advisors who are not placing business there. So it's just a value add that we can offer to that group of people. And we then built a dashboard around it as well for our executive team so they can see it every day. And then just as an example of the underlying report. So as far as integration goes, that's all I kind of have to share with you today. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob, and he's going to take us through what he's done.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Small room, and I do talk loud. So I do have this giant clock up here, so I will not run long. I know I'm the last thing between us and a long line at the keynote session, so I will promise you not to go long. My name is Bob Linz. I work technically for ThinkTech, the technology arm of TD Ameritrade. The other day in the keynote session, you saw one of our senior executives. He talked about our integration, what we've done on the retail side. And yesterday, we also had another breakout session which talked a little bit more in depth about the retail side, what we've done on the call center. What I'm going to talk about today is more of the, we have two orgs. Our institutional side with our registered investment advisors. We've been using that org for many years. I think we launched it in 2006. So rather than just recap a lot of the stuff that you already might have seen, we're just going to talk to what type of data integration we've done with this particular org. Got about 750 users. I say near 100% adoption. There's probably one rogue person in the mailroom that hasn't logged in a while, but pretty much everybody uses it. We have custom objects all over the place, hundreds of workflows, field updates, all to make the system work as efficiently as possible. And what we have done is where we can integrate data, we have. A lot of it might not be 100% automatic because sometimes it's better just to quickly see the data before it gets put in there rather than just have a system, jam it right through blindly. But, in the financial industry, and I'm sure many of yours, it's worth that extra little look before just putting something in and possibly making a mistake. So what I'm going to talk about first, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot at Dreamforce, there's different ways. When people talk about integration, there's different ways of integrating data. What I think of, there's really two main ways. On the left-hand side, storing the data in Salesforce. Using the data loader API, the other ETL tools, the data's hanging out in Salesforce. And as you can see, there's a lot of pros of that. You gain the power of Salesforce to do that. The reporting, the dashboards, the out-of-the-box functionality, pre-populating records all over the place to make your life easier for end users. There are some cons to that. It's only as good as when it was entered. And storage constraints. You've got millions, 7, 10 million clients or records or whatnot, and you've got a lot of data to go along with it. You might not want to put it in there. But on the flip side, you've got presenting data, and this is becoming the more trendy thing there. Presenting data within Salesforce, using mashups, S-controls, Visualforce. There's a lot of great pros on here, and we do that if you attended some of the other sessions. We will bring in real time all of our balances, all of our trades, all of our history, all that information that we don't want stored at Salesforce, but you want at your associates' fingertips. So they're an inverse of each other, the pros and the cons. Each has its own use. Neither's right or wrong. It just really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But what I'm going to focus on today is on the left-hand side there, getting that data within Salesforce. So again, not really knowing the audience, I did stay high level. I did go a little bit deep. The goal here today is if maybe I can get a spark an idea or something like that. I'm not going to get very technical in nature by any means. So one of the things that I learned the hard way when I did this myself, I didn't create enough foreign keys all over the place. So if you're going to get data from all your different data sources, whether they're internal or even externally from a vendor, that's where I think it's even more important, because a lot of times you're not in control of the data. Find something that's going to be common. Make sure it's an external ID. And get something that can be repeatable over time, especially, and talk to your vendors and make sure they're not going to change things on the fly for you, because matching up first name, last name doesn't work. We all know that. And you spend more time trying to fix the data. As you said there, clean data is only it's got to be really good. So that's just my one little tidbit for you. So some of the benefits of what I'm going to try to talk about today, I'm not going to read through the bullets. I'm going to go through each one of these independently, but these are some of the benefits that I believe you can have integrating your data within Salesforce. So one of the things here, faster communication to clients where time is critical. And I'll give an example of how we do that. We all know all of our customers or our clients, they work it on spreadsheets, access databases. We can get rid of all that stuff. Once it's in Salesforce, you can actually leverage a lot of the data, whether it's a priority, a ranking, information about your client, that only exists in Salesforce as opposed to maybe a transactional database. Once it's in there, you can start getting that ability, contacting the most important client first. And then, of course, the benefits, reducing firm risk and improving your client and customer satisfaction. One of the ways that we accomplished this at TD Ameritrade, we probably 5-10 times a day, we'll get files from our back office systems with just lists of account numbers that we need to contact these clients immediately. And there's probably 10 different reasons. We've got a little drop-down list here that shows some of the reasons. They're in a margin call. Something's wrong with their account, negative balance, but we've got to call these people immediately. What we did in the past, we had people dedicated to getting these files, converting them into Excel spreadsheets, manually sending them out to people, emailing them. You couldn't keep track of what's going on. So what we did is we built a custom application. Since the files weren't that large, we were able to build just a little loader window right on the page. One click of the button takes the file right from our back-end system, loads it in there in the correct format. And another click of the button, it will load it right into this custom object, automatically assign it out to the right person, and then everyone uses their own list views. So, and then now you gain the power of Salesforce. Like we said here, you've got your priority, your tiers, all the information that exists within Salesforce only, not your back-end transactional systems, is already in Salesforce. So now they can sort the data, make sure they're calling the most important client first. And one of the added benefits here is you're not dealing with Excel spreadsheets all over the place. Everyone gets a clean view of what each other is doing, and they're making sure that they are calling the right person and doing what they're supposed to do at the right time. So, and there's a couple of added benefits that we had with this. We didn't realize that, yes, we had all these Excel spreadsheets throughout the day, but they were just standalone bits and pieces of information. Once we started loading it within Salesforce, we got to see trends on a client that we never even saw before. It wasn't even a goal of ours, but just by bringing the data into Salesforce gave us views that we just didn't even know were possible. So there was an added win there. Another thing we have here, improved visibility for associates. You've heard the word 360-degree view over and over again. More data at their fingertips rather than in these other systems or in emails, providing insight on what client to call first. That seems to be very key when you get a giant list of people. Yes, you have to finish a list by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Who do I call first? Who's more important to talk to? When the data is in Salesforce, it's easier to prepare for the call. All the other information is at your fingertips. And the big thing, eliminating the manual spreadsheets. I'm sure everyone has spreadsheets that you try to have everyone share and work throughout the entire firm. It doesn't work when they're, I don't know how many, with the size, they don't even load if you're going across the country. Somebody's got it locked, somebody's got it open, somebody deletes it. All of that goes away at that point. Another example of what we've done on the institutional side, once a day, we'll get a list from our back-end systems of all the ACATs that are leaving the firm. So what we do in the past, it was an Excel spreadsheet to a dedicated person. It was her job to take this, massage the data, send it out to the various 15 service teams, depending on who, what team it was associated to. And again, that was a manual process. And she would email it out, and then at the end of the day, she would get all that information back in, compile it up. It was just, it was a mess. So it's similar to the other one. She just clicks on a button, it automatically gets loaded into the system, automatically routed to the correct service team based on their priority list. The dashboard will refresh automatically. They get a nice little email that says, hey, the information's been loaded, go to your dashboard. And this dashboard here, this is just a little snippet of a standard SLA dashboard. This is what these people need to do before they go home throughout the day. So this is one little snippet when it's ready. It's very important to make these phone calls to tell our customers, hey, by the way, you've got assets that just left another firm. Not that that's bad all the time. People have to take their money at certain times, but it gives our advisors and our clients a proactive approach. This used to be very reactive to our clients. We're now telling them before they even know something's happening. And we accomplish this by creating a couple of custom objects, obviously relating it back to our client accounts. So again, we get a better view, and it wasn't the goal, but we get a view of our clients that we never had before. So great information here. And another added benefit, this used to get manually rolled up on a weekly basis. That same person that did, spent probably 2 hours a day sending it out would spend almost a day on the way back in. Push this up to management because management wants to know about this. By the time management got this was a week old. So yeah, it was, hey, okay, great, appreciate it, thanks a lot. They moved on, and it was never real time. So targeted marketing campaigns to clients. One of the things, and I should have talked about this earlier, everything in Salesforce goes out of our into our data warehouse, and all of our client accounts, the demographic information, all those millions of accounts come into Salesforce every single day. So we've got a giant 360-degree. We use every minute of the day with data coming in and data coming out using some of a tool to take care of that. But we also made sure that we're pushing all of our IDs, the Salesforce IDs, for pretty much every one of our objects is also getting pushed back to the warehouse. That allows marketing the flexibility to do whatever they want in the warehouse. They don't need to know that Salesforce even exists. They have all the data they want. They can slice and dice it however they want to slice and dice it. They just hand it back to us with all the IDs in the file. So now it's just one click. We load it right back into the system. And the great thing there is once it gets loaded back in, emails get fired out to all the sales team to make sure, hey, the campaign's ready. Go ahead, call these people, and you get your power of Salesforce based on whatever priority or assets they call the right person first. And the great thing here, we load many campaigns intraday, and we get real-time status of the campaigns doing it this way. As I was talking before, third-party vendor source information. There's a lot of public information about our particular clients, and it's great to get that information into Salesforce. Not only for new clients, because there's new clients that are coming into the business every week. So it's great. We'll get that information. We'll load that into Salesforce. We'll send off a nice little friendly email based on the location to the correct salesperson. Hey, you've got a new lead. Joe Advisor just decided to open up his business. Go get him before the competition does. So it's a great way to, give us a competitive edge. And one of the keys here is making sure you have some type of common key with your vendors, because we didn't in the very beginning, and it was a horrible, painful experience trying to massage that data and to get it not really loaded in the first time. But this information changes week after week, month after month. Our clients change. So if an advisor had $500 million under management, when we get the new data now, they've got $750 million under assets. We obviously know what we know. They might have $100 million with us. Well, bringing that information of what assets that they have, obviously with some formula fields, we can figure out what percentage of their business they have. So bringing that information and keeping it current really it's important to us to figure out how much of the share of wallet do we have of our clients. So that's why it was very important to make sure that we have these keys to match that back up. Because it's important to a salesperson. Do I have all of their business? Are they testing us out in a very big fish that I really want to make sure? So it's just very important to our salespeople. Speaking of our salespeople, opportunities and Salesforce in the financial industry, it's a little bit different. Just because we win an opportunity doesn't mean the money's in the door. It sort of just means that, yes, we might get new business. They're going to do business with us. What really matters in the financial industry, for us at least, is assets in the door. So just because they've closed all these opportunities and there's a hypothetical, I've got $100 million coming in, that's great. They need to know how much has actually come in the door. So what we do is, again, using our data warehouse, we will load in the actuals on a weekly or monthly basis so advisors can actually see their performance. Now that we're doing this, it's sparking a lot of healthy competition, gives management a true insight of what's going on, the performers, the underperformers. You can even make some comparison between sales reps and sales teams. And it's not just a last-minute scramble as the year is ending. We've got to play catch-up. They know where they are throughout the course of the year. Being who we are, obviously I can't show a lot of data here, but you get the idea. We've got some custom objects that are for every single person where they can load, we load in all the assets and all the financial information about every one of our clients, is in here, so we can make logical decisions, whether it's, based on what type of commission schedule, what other type of deals that we can do for you. But then also the service team and sales team knows how much assets have come in the door. Where I am right now, how much do I have to bring in the next couple of months to meet my goal? Where do I stand within the rest of my sales team? This is very, very important. And the benefit, we saw the benefit immediately when we started loading the actuals back into our system. So as I said before, we gained a lot of information and side benefits that we weren't even trying to, when we were trying to accomplish some of these other goals, the benefits were huge. Obviously, once you get the data in Salesforce, the power's there with the reporting and the dashboards. We all know that. And leveraging the list views and the sorting and getting the real-time information, trending analysis with your analytic snapshots. But we get different, like I said, we get different views of our clients and our customers that we couldn't get on all these little independent systems. We can see where is all of our money going, who is it going to in this example, which advisors have the most money that's leaving or that are coming in. And this is just a little sample. But again, the power and the now that management can make real-time decisions, it's really impacted, obviously to a benefit, our department. So some of the results we have here, integrating the data from other sources, really both externally and internally, both are serving us very well. That we all get the same common results: better visibility with our data, getting that 360-degree view, more efficient internal processes. I don't know how many people we have made their lives so much easier, been able to reallocate to different parts of the team. Improved management insight. They're getting their data real time and being able to make decisions real time. And obviously at the end there, happier clients. I should say also happier associates as well there too. Okay, thank you.
So we're giving away an iPod from this session. So if you can go to the booth and fill out a survey, you'll actually get entered into a drawing and you can win I think it's an iPod Touch. Oh, no, so it's an iPod Nano. So feel free to go to the survey booth, fill out a survey. You'll be entered into a drawing. We have 10 minutes left. Does anyone want to ask any questions? Sure. You want to stick the mic?
All three look like a fairly sophisticated setup and system that you've built out. Very impressive. Really talking about users and the training of users. When you have new people come into the organization, what kind of training do you present to them? And then as you add some more functionality to your organization as you go along, how do you communicate the changes of that functionality to the user?
You want to just go down.
Which one do you want to answer?
I'll answer the communication. I mean, I developed a DB Force alert. And so anything that is rolled out, a new functionality, I kind of like to put a little step-by-step. If it's a big process, we have training classes that people can either, from our regional office, via WebEx or in the office. But most of the new functionality is very user-friendly. So it's just about letting people know that it's there now to use it. This is where you find the link, which is the hardest part, right? Because once you get into the form, the system walks you through it. So I have these DB Force alerts that I kind of design that everybody knows that when they see that, they know it's something about the system.
One of the things that we have is we'll dedicate, if you have this benefit, we'll dedicate one of our sandboxes as a training sandbox that we can use. But we find that Salesforce is just very easy. And we're taking difficult processes and making them so much easier that the learning curve is just very quick. Especially with new associates coming in the door, I think we've cut our new training program in half as compared to what it was a couple of years ago. But if you can use a sandbox, even if you have to use a developer sandbox and just configure it and throw in some dummy data, that seems to really work. Our associates playing around with a couple of minutes, they get it.
We actually, can I also just, so we actually, because we have these 40 different companies, we add new companies to that all the time, so they're coming in fresh. So we've actually developed little training clips that we post right within Salesforce on the documents, like it's like kind of a folder on the documents tab, so completely custom to our org that they can go in and view. And we also, because we do releases on a regular basis, we kind of follow what Salesforce does, and we send out a release sort of management update kind of thing where it outlines the new things, as well as we use tip sheets. So we post them not only within Salesforce, but we email them out on these release management, and it's step-by-step with screenshots how to use some of the new functionality that we have in the system.
Do you have a question there?
Just that trick of attaching the PDFs was really cool. What engine did you use outside? I'm assuming that was all on.
Yeah, so we work with a partner firm, Echo Lane. They're up here in the Bay Area. And so we actually don't use Salesforce document storage for various reasons. We have a custom program that basically it takes the file off of the Salesforce server and moves it into our unique storage. But the way that works, it's actually through email. And there's an XML feed that tells the program to then go and get it and move it over. But that's how it works. But it was a custom build. Say that one more time.
ETL. Using a lot of ETL data extraction, so you're using ETL tools for data.
Like we use Pervasive. Is that kind of what you're asking? Like, yeah, Pervasive is like a middleware tool, so it allows us to pull from like a data warehouse and map it up into Salesforce. Is that kind of what you're asking?
What kind of challenges do you face in terms of volumes and then because you have only the X number of hours to load the data, right, before the release starts?
Sure. Actually, it's all automated using Pervasive. So the feeds run, in some cases, we have feeds that run on a nightly basis, some that run on a weekly basis, and some that run on a quarterly basis. It's all automated. So once we set up, in Pervasive, you create like a map. And then you can automate that map to run on a schedule. Once you get it built, it just runs. And we haven't had, quarterly we do about 17,000 records. That's probably our biggest load. And it takes less than an hour actually still to run. So we haven't hit that limit yet. I do think with the book of business reporting, as we get more and more feeds, it may start to be an issue. But at this point, I'm thinking it'll be under 4 to 5 hours, and it runs sort of middle of the night, right? So we start around midnight, and it's done by 6 a.m.
we use Informatica as well, and we've got 7 million records that we're loading, deltas every single day, run into the same problem. All of our other systems feed in at 2 o'clock in the morning. We've got to start. We've got to keep our fingers crossed that it's done and waiting by 9 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's there. Sometimes it's late. So we run into the same challenges. We've worked with Informatica a lot in these past couple of weeks with the bulk API. Bulk API, we've loaded 10 million records in probably 2.5 hours. So we're sort of running into the same challenges as well right now. Informatica, I think they're in the process of maybe updating to leverage the bulk API, and then all of our problems will go away.
You can probably talk offline, but I guess, these are the challenges we are facing.
Every minute of the day we're using it, whether pushing out or pulling in. There's not much time to spare.
What we did was we built an ordering system within Salesforce to actually send order real time to our fulfillment center. Since we built it, our system has just gotten extremely slow. What have you guys had that, and if you did, what did you do to solve it? Because right now we're having the biggest issue with trying to solve the speed issue, with the slowness within Salesforce.
I'll say we haven't really seen that.
No,
We have about, I don't know, probably close to 20 integrations. I showed you 4. I bet you saw how they go back and forth. Okay. Yep.
As far as global international, and we just built this ordering system, just went to the fulfillment center, and all of a sudden people are making new reports, and it pull down the slide bar, and it's free. This screen is just free.
If you want to talk afterwards, you can talk about what you're doing with your strategies to try and help speed that up. So there's, that's probably something we should get through support looking at there.
Yeah, we escalated it.
All right, so let's talk afterwards. Yeah, sure.
I'm wondering, we're planning on using the bulk loader API. We're coming around at the right time, so we get to use that. But we also have a number of scenarios where we want to do more near real-time integration. We're using a TIBCO backbone. So we're planning on both using services and things like you guys are with matchups and things for some. But in other cases, we also need to propagate data back into our other systems. Are any of you doing any of that? Where you're more near real time moving it back into the organization?
Yeah, in our system, we create the origin of the customer starts in Salesforce. So every 5 minutes or so, we're sending that to our data warehouse, and it kind of stamps it with the unique identifier. We call it a customer number.
And Julie actually is using Deutsche Bank using TIBCO as well as a workflow engine. So the wire the transaction that Julie referred to for the straight-through processing actually use TIBCO as an approval level in between the two sections. So they actually
Thanks. I'm not a technical person, but I knew I could fall back on him.
Yes, I have a question for Adam. I noticed that you're using contracts and products. Is there a reason why you took that route as opposed to custom objects?
It was a mistake. So the reason, sorry, and actually I'm going to throw ProServe under the bus right now, but the reason we ended up with contracts is when we did our initial build out about 2 years ago, we went to ProServe and said, okay, this is what we want to do. They said, oh, well, the contracts object really is going to give you all this functionality you want. It's not. It's actually been more of a hamstring than anything else. You can't expose it in mobile. You can't expose it in customer portal. And actually, one of the things we're going to undertake in the first quarter is moving it all to a custom object, which is going to be a process that I'm not really looking forward to. Now, the products object, I will say that's been fine. We haven't had any issues there, but it doesn't contain the same important data that what we have on the contracts object is. I would say if you're going to do a significant customization, I would suggest a custom object. It seems to be Salesforce seems to include that in all the other things, whereas they don't necessarily include the standard objects.
Would you still use products?
We still, I would, only because we haven't seen the issues that we have with the other. I guess I'll go first. I'm sure we all have opinions. I'm sure each one of us is going to tell you something different, by the way, is kind of my guess as we go through this. I'd say the most important thing to me when we first got started, the word integration, it can be very intimidating when you think about it, right? You have this huge systems, and how are you going to do it? And if you're not knowledgeable about it, it just is very intimidating. So we spend a lot of time, even today, planning up front and really scoping it out and speccing it out. We find the more time we spend up front, the less time we actually spend building. As I said, we use Pervasive. We did a lot of investigation around what tool is going to work best for us. We settled on Pervasive. And then, working with a partner firm or a ProServe, that expertise, and even today, we do a lot of integrations in-house now with our IT department, but if we need Apex or we need something, some heavy lifting done, we will reach out to our partner firm and have them help us. And we've even used them just in the beginning to help us scope, right, to make sure we don't miss anything. And I find, to me, that's money well spent. But that would kind of be my recommendation for you.
So probably I'm not the technical guy, so I'll sort of stay away from that stuff. But when we brought in on the screen, because one of the goals that we wanted to accomplish on the retail side, eliminate all these different logins to all these different various transactional systems. So with the help of Salesforce, we figured out a way, using our internal web services, SOA services, again, I'm in over my head, even just speaking of that. But we were able to really, without an actual third-party vendor, go ahead and, paint half of the page. If you saw the other day at another breakout session, the top of our page was all just a Visualforce page, framing in all the information real time from our back-end system. The bottom half of the page is all the out-of-the-box Salesforce stuff. And it's from a speed perspective, seconds to load in all of our transactions, our balances, our history, from our various systems. So again, using professional services, we were able to, to accomplish that in-house. And now going forward, we're able to add, more things on the fly.
Just a follow-up question on what I guess Dr. Gord spoke. We just started implementing Salesforce, and then the whole thing we have all data warehouse with millions of records coming from all different sources. One of the things people are not very comfortable is why are we moving all this data that we are loading the warehouse again to Salesforce for reporting? Is not the only reason, right? I mean, there's a lot more in a beautiful dashboard. All the reasons you gave are the right reasons. The whole question was, why are we moving huge amounts of data back and forth? So, I mean, how do you, I'm sure you must have hit the same question, how do you go about it, and what's your answer?
I'd simply say transparency. So the data to the end user, when they see it, they're the ones that are going to know if there's any mistakes in it. And so that transparency really keeps the data integrity, I feel, because anything that's incorrect is found because the end user is in the system and looking at the data all day long.
I mean, I just think it's, like in my world, because, there's the executive team, right? They have access to the IT department. They can get the reporting they want. Well, a service guy who's on the front line, he can't get that. And he's going to want to see a different data set than what my executive team wants to see. So by pulling it into Salesforce, when that phone rings, the client comes up, he gets that 360, right? 360, we use the word, but 360-degree view of the advisor. And for us, it helps drive adoption, right? If it's useful information, they're going to use it and they're going to enter it. I mean, our whole sales team uses it, and I'm sure you all work with sales folks. Getting them to use anything is like, pulling teeth. But this really has helped us get down that road.
And there's a point when we're going into the process of actually purging some of the data in Salesforce. If we have it in our back-end system for mining perspective, there is a point when how many years of data do you really need in Salesforce? As long as you have it in your warehouse and marketing can mine it and do whatever they have to do, we're trying to come up with that. What do our end users really need to see? How far back do they really need to see? Just to make sure that we're not overloading both systems.
The other thing to keep in mind is if you want to use workflow rules or if you want to use any of those, those alerts and functionality stuff, you can have data in there. So when you're taking that data to bring over, one thing to consider is what do I want to do with it once it's in there. So if you want to leverage the workflow alerts or workflow rules, that's one of the things to consider as well.
I mean, we are covered because we have Cal, Salesforce having that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.